All right, let's dive in. Today, we're going deep into the world of shamanism.
Okay.
But not just the, historical stuff. We're talking about how it's actually relevant right now in our modern world.
Right.
We'll be exploring a YouTube video by John Rasmussen called Shamanism in the Modern World.
Okay, cool.
He brings up some really interesting points, like how ADHD could actually be a shamanic gift.
Huh. Interesting.
And then there's this idea of destiny shifting.
Destiny shifting.
Yeah, we'll get into that.
Okay.
And of course, we got to talk about how shamanism is different from religion and sorcery.
Gotcha.
So, before we get ahead of ourselves, let's start with the basics. Who exactly is a shaman, and what makes them stand out?
Well, Rasmussen describes shamans as the people in a village who were kind of different. They saw things differently.
Oh.
They were the problem solvers, the ones who understood things that others didn't, and they used that knowledge to help their community.
So they were like the innovators of their time, pushing boundaries and bringing new knowledge to their people.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Rasmussen gives some great examples. Think about the person who first figured out how to keep a fire going, providing warmth and safety, or the one who decoded animal migration patterns, which led to better hunts.
Right.
As societies developed, these skills evolved. Shamans became healers, storytellers, even entrepreneurs. But they always used their unique abilities to benefit those around them.
Fascinating. So it's less about some mystical image and more about them being active in shaping their world.
Yeah.
How does that translate to today? What does a modern-day shaman look like?
This is where things get really interesting. Rasmussen suggests that some kids today who are labeled with ADHD might actually possess those same shamanic gifts.
Whoa, hold on. That's a bold statement.
It is.
What traits does he consider shamanic gifts, and how are they seen differently in the past?
Imagine a child who's incredibly sensitive to their environment.
Okay.
They pick up on subtle energy shifts that others miss.
Interesting.
Or a child with a super vivid imagination, always daydreaming.
Right, and in a modern setting like a classroom, those traits can be seen as disruptive.
Absolutely. But in a shamanic culture, they might have been highly valued.
So instead of needing to be fixed, these kids were encouraged to develop their unique ways of seeing and interacting with the world.
Precisely. It really makes you think about how we view those differences and if we're missing out on potential strengths by trying to fit everyone into the same mold.
Definitely makes you rethink things.
Yeah.
So if shamanism isn't about rituals or titles, what exactly are those shamanic abilities and how are they practiced?
It's less about specific actions and more about a way of being. It's about having a heightened awareness and sensitivity. Rasmussen uses this example of a healer who has a natural gift for sending healing energy.
Okay.
It's not a technique they learned from a book, but like an innate ability.
Like a talent, sort of, like being a gifted musician or athlete, but their talent is interacting with energy.
Yeah, exactly. And while there are specific practices associated with shamanism, like ways to clear out old energies, the underlying principles and methods are pretty universal across different cultures and time periods, like using fire, stones, or water for purification,
Right.
or going on vision quests for guidance and insight. You see those things pop up everywhere.
Sounds like it taps into something fundamental about being human, something that goes beyond cultural boundaries.
I think so.
Rasmussen also mentions that some traditions, like the Karo people, focus on ancestral threads,
Yes.
meaning the experiences of our ancestors could still be affecting us today.
Exactly. It's a lot to think about.
It is. So if these techniques are so powerful and widespread, why aren't we seeing more of shamanism in the modern world?
Rasmussen argues that the rise of the Western paradigm, with its focus on institutions and limits on spiritual practices, that's what led to a lot of shamanic traditions being suppressed or disappearing altogether.
As power shifted from individuals to institutions, a lot of that ancient wisdom got lost.
Sadly, yes.
But if these abilities involve interacting with energy and what some might call psychic abilities, how is that different from seeing a psychic or following a religion? Where do the lines blur?
That's a great question. While shamans might have those psychic abilities.
Like seeing into the future, communicating with spirits.
Exactly.
Okay.
The core of shamanism is about empowering people to change their own destinies.
So it goes beyond fortune telling. It's about giving people the tools to actually shape their future.
Exactly. Rasmussen tells a story about someone who got a negative prediction from a psychic.
Oh, no.
But then they consulted with a shaman and were able to change their path and get a better outcome.
That's destiny shifting in action.
Right.
But how is this different from organized religion?
Well, religions have hierarchies, fixed rules, and doctrines. Shamanism is more organic and fluid. It's about direct personal experience, not blind faith.
So it's a constantly evolving relationship with the world and the forces within it.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it.
It's recognizing that we're all part of a dynamic system, and we can shape our reality within that system. But how does that empowerment actually work?
That's a great question.
What tools do shamans use to help people tap into their own power? We'll explore that in part 2 of our deep dive.
Shamanism is really all about recognizing and cultivating your own inherent abilities. It's about tapping into the potential we already have inside us.
So the shaman isn't controlling you, but rather helping you unlock your own inner strength.
Exactly. Rasmussen talks about how shamans help people harness their imagination, connect with their dreams, and even learn to ask and receive from the universe so they can create the reality they want.
That sounds a lot like manifestation, where our thoughts and beliefs influence what we experience. Is there a connection?
Yeah, there are definitely some similarities, but shamanism goes beyond just wishing for things to happen. It emphasizes breaking free from the past,
Okay.
recognizing that we're not stuck with our old experiences or limiting beliefs. We can actually choose a new path, a new destiny.
It's like hitting a reset button, clearing out old programming,
Right.
installing a new operating system for your life.
Yeah.
How does that destiny shifting actually work?
It's about becoming conscious creators of our reality. Shamans believe that we're constantly interacting with energy.
Right.
Our thoughts, our emotions, our intentions, they all have a real impact on the world around us. They use different techniques to help people shift their energy, release old patterns, align themselves with what they want to achieve.
So it's more than just positive thinking. It's actively shifting your energy and engaging with the universe.
Exactly. And the shaman is there to guide you through the process. They give you the tools and knowledge, but ultimately the power to change lies within each person.
That puts the responsibility and the freedom right back in your hands. But if shamanism is all about positive transformation,
Yeah.
personal empowerment, how is that different from things like sorcery or witchcraft?
Yeah.
They often get lumped together.
Right, but there is a big difference. Rasmussen is very clear about separating true shamanism from practices that aim to manipulate energy for personal gain,
Good.
or even to harm others. The techniques might look similar,
No.
but the intention behind them is completely different.
So it's not about the tools themselves, but how they're used and why.
Exactly. True, shamanism is always focused on healing and empowerment for the individual and for the community as a whole.
So it's about working with the forces of nature, not trying to control them.
Exactly. Like the difference between using words to inspire someone versus using them to manipulate or hurt them.
Oh, I see.
Same tool, different intention.
So intention is key. It's like
Yeah.
the moral compass for a shaman.
Absolutely. And that intention comes from a deep respect for the interconnectedness of everything. Recognizing that our actions have consequences.
Yeah.
True power comes from working with the natural order, not against it.
This has been so eye-opening. It's really changed how I think about shamanism.
I'm glad.
It's made me realize how relevant it is in the modern world.
Yeah.
But how can we actually apply these ancient principles to our lives today? It's one thing to talk about destiny shifting, tapping into our potential, but what does that look like in practice?
That's the key question, isn't it? If shamanism is about empowerment, what are we being empowered to do? And how can we translate these ideas into real-world action? We'll dive into that in the final part of our deep dive.
Okay, we're back for the final part of our shamanism deep dive.
Right.
In parts 1 and 2, we talked about the history and the practices of shamanism.
Yeah.
But now, let's get to the good stuff. How do we actually apply these ancient ideas to our modern lives?
That's what we all want to know, right?
Yeah.
We've talked about empowerment, but empowered to do what? How do we actually use this in our daily life?
Exactly. How do we go from understanding it to living it?
Well, one thing Rasmussen really emphasizes is that shamanism isn't just about personal growth. It's about using that growth to contribute to something bigger than yourself. Remember, shamans were the ones who helped their communities thrive.
Right. They were the problem solvers, the healers.
Exactly. And that same principle applies today, whether it's through healing work, environmental activism, creative expression, even entrepreneurship. Shamanism can be used in any area where you want to make a positive difference.
So it's not just about finding yourself. It's about sharing what you find with the world.
That's a great way to put it. And remember how Rasmussen talked about intention? That's where it all begins. When we align our actions with our deepest values, that's how we tap into that shamanic power. That's how we start shaping our reality.
So we become conscious creators,
Yes.
not just of our own lives, but of the world we want to live in.
Exactly, both individually and collectively. And it's not about some overnight magical
That's
transformation.
right.
Shamanism is a journey.
Yeah.
It's about paying attention to the signs, connecting with nature, cultivating curiosity about the world.
It's a mindset of exploration and discovery, both outside and within ourselves.
Absolutely. It's recognizing that everything is connected and that even our smallest actions have an impact.
Wow, this deep dive has been incredible. We've learned so much about shamanism,
It's been a fascinating journey.
from its history to its potential for transformation,
Yeah.
and now to how we can use it to make a real difference in the world.
It's amazing how much wisdom these ancient practices hold for us today.
I know, right? Before we go, I want to leave our listeners with a question.
Okay.
If shamans are the ones who see more clearly, how can we cultivate that kind of awareness in our own lives? How can we connect more deeply with ourselves, with nature, with the unseen forces around us?
That's a really powerful question, and the answer is going to be different for everyone. But maybe the first step is simply being open to the possibility that there's more to life than what we see on the surface, and to be willing to explore those hidden dimensions with an open mind and an open heart.
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into shamanism. We hope you've learned something new and that you're feeling inspired to see the world, and maybe even yourself, a little differently.
It's been a pleasure. Keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.